Welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Dahya. I'm so grateful that you're here listening to this podcast episode. Would love for you to share this episode with your friends, your family, and your workmates. And if you haven't already done so, please follow this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Today, our guest is Athin Cassiotis. He is a business growth expert, investor, international speaker, coach, mentor, consultant, and podcast host of the Business Growth Show. Athin helps business owners grow and scale their businesses to create wealth and freedom in life. He does this through his 9 key to business growth mastery MBA system using vertical and in-person events, coaching, mentoring sessions. He has helped business owners in over 30 industries across 10 countries with 6-figure, 7-figure, and 8-figure business clients to create wealth and freedom using his MBA and being an NLP master practitioner. Let's welcome Athin to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast.
Thanks, Anthony. Awesome to be here, mate. Looking forward to adding value to your audience.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here. So, Athin, tell us a little bit about your journey to this point.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely been an interesting one. I grew up in Adelaide, South Australia, which is a smaller capital city and a bit like a big country town. Yeah, my parents were high school teachers, right? So I sort of went through that school system and played a lot of sport growing up, which is great. Soccer and tennis from a young age, and enjoyed winning some championships and things there. And in year 10, I was about 15 years old. I started selling VCD movies at high school, CD burners for those older people will probably remember those there. So, Fast and the Furious #1, that's how long ago it was, all those types of movies at that point in time. So that was when my entrepreneurial journey started. Had to think ahead strategically on how to make money there. And then, towards the end of high school, didn't like it and I dropped out, which my parents, you can imagine, didn't like. Then just got a job at a big environmental company, worked my way up. They moved me to Sydney. I've been in Sydney now for about 13 years. But then, in there, everyone was talking about degrees, right? And then I had nothing. I just worked my way up. And then I wanted to learn more about business. And then I went to one of the top universities here in Sydney and realized I could get into the MBA course without just having over 8 years of experience. So got to skip the school and the bachelor and get straight into it that way, and started doing most of the core subjects. Then there was a change of management and I left after 10 and a half years at that company, and I started my first company, Waste Management Consulting, took all my knowledge, gave it to the industry, and worked a lot of big brands there like Westfield, Kmart and Target, Officeworks, Defence, many others. And then from there, I would go to networking events and people would ask me questions about business. I'm like, oh, why don't you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And they're like, that's really good. Can you tell me that again? I need to write that down. And this would happen multiple times. Yeah. So I realized I had a very good strategic brain, good memory, everything like that. And from there, I thought, well, I may as well create a business out of this, right? So I started business coaching, mentoring as well towards the end of 2019. So still got both businesses and really helping, businesses in all different industries, across many countries, virtually, in-person events, one-on-one, and really enjoying that variety and helping business owners, grow and scale from my MBA background as well as my NLP master practitioner background on the mindset side, which I know you're big on as well. And then my podcast, which I just interviewed you on as well, the Business Growth Show, and over 200 episodes and counting over 4 years, which is going strong. And looking at other partnering, other opportunities, right? So it's a lot that's sort of grown on that journey, in my life, and a lot of mindset shifts that have happened along that journey too.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you're a man of many talents.
Thanks, mate. I aim to be where possible, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed with what you've achieved. And I can tell that mindset is something that's very important to you, and you love talking about it. So can you share how a shift in mindset was crucial on your journey from dropping out of high school and becoming a successful business growth expert?
Yeah, mindset was everything. And if I look back, I think sport played a big part for me where, I was never the most naturally gifted player in the team, like a Messi, so to speak, right? If I talk soccer, which is sort of naturally gifted, I was more like the Ronaldo, the other best player in the world, right? Where he sort of built himself, right, into the best player by, working the hardest, being disciplined and all that. So I always made myself into one of the best players in the team, even if I wasn't naturally gifted, because I just had that determination, from a young age. And I realized the way I was wired, where, when I dropped out, my dad said to me, Athin, you'll never be able to study. Right. He had 3 degrees. I dropped out of high school. And then one of my teachers there said, Athin, you'll never be successful. Right. Can you imagine this at 17 years old, right? Telling a child this, right? But because of my sport background, people would say, oh, you're not as good as him, all of this sort of stuff. And always in my mind, I was like, watch me prove you wrong. And I would become the best. Right. So I know Michael Jordan's a bit like this if you watch The Last Dance on Netflix, in that mindset. So I think sports set me up in some way, in a good way, to do that. I think there's other things like music, martial arts, other things like that, that can do a similar thing, right? Of just wanting to get better all the time and growing yourself. So I think that played a massive part. And then later, just when I started my business journey, personal development, right? Massively important. You don't know what you don't know. We've all grown up with a lot of different beliefs from our parents that we're not necessarily aware of. And one of my friends in Adelaide bought a ticket to a 3-day business event, and it was in Sydney. And a week before, he got a call saying you can bring a friend for free. And he called me and said, hey, do you want to come to this event? And this was 3 months into my first business, right? And I did the really risky thing where I quit my job, started my business the next day, burnt the boats. Very risky, right? No cash flow coming in, had a few months of cash in the bank. Cash was dwindling down a bit. And then I went there like I'd paid, multiple $1,000s like he did, wrote 100 pages of notes, implemented, and then got Westwood as my first big client. And everything started changing for me. And then I really felt the love for personal development. I've invested, hundreds of thousands of dollars in myself now in so many different areas because I know the power of it in my mindset, my skills, all of that from there, right? So it was just, sometimes you need just that one thing, that one event or something that just shifts things and going, wow, what else is there, that I can get to keep, getting to a higher level and helping more people.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I can relate to, for example, what you were told about, you'd never be able to study, you'd never be able to do that. And as I've shared with you on your podcast, I was told by my father, I'd never be a singer, I'd be useless, I'd never amount to anything. And again, it was proving myself that I could do this and also proving to my father that I could do it. And later in life, I was able to do that. And he actually backed me in my journey to Las Vegas and singing in a contest over there. So, it's amazing what a shift of mindset and I feel it happens when I find that the shift comes when you're broken, when you've surrendered, you've let go and you're like, that's it, I've got nothing else. And then all of a sudden you get this boost of like enthusiasm and motivation to go, I'm going to prove this to myself. Is that what it was like for you?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Love that story as well. And you're right. You have to do something, right? It's when you're down in those areas where you sort of get this another edge, right? And then you're going,
Yeah.
okay, let me see what I can do here. Let me see what's that next level, right? You can just go to comfort and do nothing, or you could, rise up basically and go, what's that next level of myself? And then once you start to build momentum, right, you start to get more shifts and it starts to become easier over time, right? Just that initial, a momentum to kick it off.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't want to be staying in our comfort zone because that's where our dreams go to die. So, yeah. So were there any specific barriers to your mindset that you had to overcome on that journey to pursue your academic study to become successful and as you have become?
Yeah, definitely. Like, when I was at my MBA, it was tough for me to study. When I was at high school, I used to do like whole semester assignments in one night. I used to do an all-nighter, right? It was tough for me to study. But then when I was doing the MBA, I just thought to myself, I want to learn more about business. This is important. I just got to make it happen, right? It's like one of those things. Like discipline's a very big thing in business. When you hear a lot of, or generally, right, in people where you do the things that people don't want to do, and you do them consistently, right? You just make it happen. There's no excuses in that way. So that was sort of my mindset, and I knew that by me learning this MBA, then it will help me later, right? In my business, in terms of, whether it's for the business I was working for at that time, or then obviously later in my businesses. So I had a purpose. It wasn't like I just got out of school and I did a uni course where a lot of kids don't necessarily know what I was doing. This is like, in my like, mid to, 20s, right? Or late 20s. This is, I'm trying to think of it. I was about like, yeah, late 20s, right? When I started
Mm,
this. So, very different time. I knew what I wanted, even though it was challenging, right? But I went hard into it and made it happen and made some big calls, right, in that area there. So I think, those elements, allowed me to go, okay, how do I make those shifts? And I think generally, right, in people, we all have limiting beliefs, like I
mm,
mentioned before. So, from our parents, a lot of them are in our unconscious mind. When my dad growing up, I remember this so profoundly. He said, money is the root of all evil, hundreds of times, right? To me, like
mm,
that's detrimental, to a mindset. Because when I started my business, that was a problem. And then about a month or two in, I got an audiobook of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Great book. And he talks exactly about that belief. And then that lack of money is actually the root of all evil because it doesn't give you choices and all these things that you can do, right? And make an impact there. So I started to rescript myself with that one belief. I wrote it everywhere. I was saying the opposite, every day. That was a big one for me in terms of money, right? And there's so many layers of beliefs as you start to become aware of your thoughts. And
mm,
what I tell people is, we all have negative thoughts from time to time, some more than others. And when you get that belief, is you catch it there, you go, okay, well, business is hard, or whatever that thing is, right? Money's revenue. What's the opposite of that? Business is easy, business is fun, whatever it is that you want to be doing. And then you just say that, out loud, you write it down, do it daily, and eventually you'll rescript yourself into that mind. So I think it's a unique journey for everybody, but there are beliefs that you can pick that you just sound good from other people that you just want to instill, even if they're not, necessarily
mm.
an opposite of your negative as well.
Yeah. So I'm getting the feeling that you didn't really listen to people and what they were telling you. You just you listened to yourself and you followed your heart and your journey, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And was there any other mindset moments that that popped up, to help you realize what was needed?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of my coaches always says, like, act as if, when you're in a
Mm,
room, it's not fake it till you make it. It's
mm,
act
as a-
as if you're supposed to be there. You're that person, right? Depending on who's in the room. So when I was walking into, Westfield's office with like, 8 people around this table going into a meeting and it's just me, right? And I'm, one man sort of person at the start of my consulting company, but I knew that I worked for big things in the past. I knew my value, right? And I walked in there and I would actually tell myself I'd walk because I used to live close to the city, in Surrey Hills in Sydney there. I used to walk about 20 minutes and that would get me into the city and to their office. And on the way there, I was telling myself what was going to happen in that meeting, right? So I'm like, I'm going to walk in there. I'm going to deliver this presentation. They're going to love me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, right? So I was already pre-framing myself with so much confidence before I went into that meeting. And then I was, basically wanting to create the future in advance, so to speak, about saying what was going to happen. And that's what would happen, right? I'd walk in with so much confidence that they would feel it, in that meeting there. And that's something that, anyone can do even before a Zoom meeting, right? An in-person meeting, whatever that is, before you speak, on a stage. So, I think that was a big thing for me is just, getting that into my mind before like what's going to happen. And that was on top of any sort of, I guess, affirmations or anything like that, that I would
mm.
add in terms of, a daily routine.
Yeah, I did that this morning. I had an interview today for reapply for my job because we're going through a restructure. And I did that this morning. I do segment intending, which is breaking up your day into little segments and then going everything. Wouldn't it be amazing if I went into this interview and it just went really well and I was well prepared and this and that. And I before the interview, I sat there and I wrote some notes and stuff so that would get into my brain. And then I just regulated myself and was doing breathing and just grounding myself. And when I went into that room, I was like really confident, Um, and because I'd also prepared and I'd also put those intentions out there. So intentions are so important. Yeah. Another question around the mindset. Did you go through periods of doubt and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, definitely. There's so many periods, right? Of doubt. Like, I started my business going, okay, let me get a little bit of work and sort of got a little bit of work by, a relationship that I had. And then it was like, oh, this isn't really making me too much money, right? I'm looking at the savings going down, going, can I actually do this, right? Like, was it the right idea to quit my job and start my business the next day? But then I had to be like, shut up, brain, right? Like, go in. This is you're gonna make this happen no matter what, right? So I had to like, put any of that doubts that come up, and then once I went to that event and rescripted my mindset and had a lot more skills, that just helped take me to another level. And then, what I did was, I reached out to, this lady at Westfield, and, met her like 4 years before for a few minutes, right? Reached out on LinkedIn, would not have remembered me, but and I just sent this message and said, let's meet up, right? And met that area there. And, some people might be like, yeah, well, as if you're going to be able to work with this big company as your first sort of major client, right? That, all these things can come up into your head, just because you work in a big company doesn't mean you can do it by yourself. But I just thought, nah, get rid of that doubt. Okay, I'm going in there exactly like I just said, and just making that happen and saying what was going to happen in that meeting, and then getting it from there. But then that was only a project, right? And then it's like, I wasn't getting ongoing revenue here. So then, that was good for that little while. But then I had to like work out other projects going, okay, cash flow is an issue here. Wow, can I keep this going? Can I sell something in this new business that's going to give me ongoing revenue? So that was like the next challenge of doubt. It's like, I can sell something that works, done that many times and other things. Then it's like, can I get the ongoing revenue in that consulting business that it was? And then I was able to do that, do a project with Kmart and Target, then work with Kmart and Target now for over 5-6 years, ongoing there. So then that allowed me to push past that level, right? So I think there's multiple levels of doubt. There's always doubt, there throughout a journey, like in business, in life, whatever it is. You just got to like block it out. Do not allow the doubt to stop you, right? It's another word for that is fear, right? Like, you can have all these fears that pop up, whatever it is, but just not, there's always going to be fear. That's the point, right? It's never going to be no fear in what you do, and you have to take some level of risk to go push past that. It's like, fear of skydiving. Oh, what happens if that 1 in 1,000 chance if something goes wrong? Like, you can't base it off fear. It's like, well, what about that 999 chance, that everything's going to be right? It's going to be an amazing experience or whatever, right? Things happen when you say yes, when you do something, and then, whether it works exactly the way you want that first time, or you learn and you adjust and you keep moving forward over time, and eventually, you can push past that fear a lot easier.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Athin. So what are some of the common mindset barriers that you see in business owners that prevent them from scaling their businesses? And how do you help them overcome those challenges?
Yeah. So obviously one side is, they've got individual beliefs. So I think as a good business coach, like myself or whoever else is out there, you've got to be awareness of the language of the client and going, I'm picking up these limiting beliefs, right? As you talk to them and going, hey, wait a minute, we need to focus on those. So I think that's one side that's specific. Now, if I would go generally about what it is, I think depending on their background, I think money is definitely like a challenge here, right? For themselves, on that area there. I would say that the biggest one is that no one could do anything as good as me, right? It is a really big one for business owners. And because you could build a 6-figure business by yourself, technically, right? You're working hard, you're wearing all the hats, you sell enough, build it, you make over 6 figures in a year. But if you really want to get that freedom, that you desire, you've got to get other people to do things for you, whether that's a virtual assistant, a VA initially, whether that's outsourcing other people in your team, right? So to do that, you've got to be okay with letting go. Most of the time, business owners don't want to let go because like, no one can do it as good as me. I give it to them, they stuff it up or whatever, like, that comes up for them, or they just want to hold it on. Like they want to hold on to this task because they're really good at it. They like doing it, but realistically, it's not the best use of their time, in terms of growing the business. So it's about changing away from that technician mindset, let's call it, like doing the thing, to actually being more of the business owner mindset, right? And then you've got another level, which is like an investor mindset as well. So it's like change that business owner mindset, like what do I need to do there? And being okay with like no one can do the exact same as you. Of course they can't. We're all unique, right? No one's got the same level of knowledge, skills, mindset like that. So you have to be okay with people doing things 80% as well as you, because if you get one other person doing 80% as well as you, that's 180% of
Mm,
output right
mm,
there. And then, you put enough systems, enough leadership in place that you can reduce errors and you train them well, all of that. And then you just keep, multiplying that, right? As you get people in and being okay with that. And then once you do that and you let go more and you focus on the things that are going to really grow the business and scale it and, give you that freedom, then things start to open up and you can create really the life that you want.
mm. So how do the mindset barriers manifest in day-to-day business operations?
Yeah. So, as an example, where like I've got clients in over 30 different industries and stuff, of course, but let's use something that a lot of people will relate to. Let's just say like it's a construction business that I've worked in, right? So this is a physical thing where the owner normally has learned a trade, right? And then they've gone, okay, now I'm going to start my own business. I've worked for someone for a while. They want to start their own business. Now, at the start, they'll need to work on their trade, right? And let's say they're a builder, right? And they're building this house. Then eventually they get apprentices, they get other people, they're doing the job and they're doing maybe focusing more on the sales, hopefully, right? And that type of side of things, getting the jobs rather than doing the job. But then what happens if, oh, I don't know, this guy's not doing it as well as me or whatever. And they're like, oh, some people are away. Oh, I might just don't worry about hiring someone else or whatever. I'll just get back on the tools for a little bit for a couple of days a week and I'll do that. So they get back to that comfort zone of going back to their thing because they know they're good at it. They know they can do the job. But in the end, that's not going to help the business, actually taking the business backwards, unless, in that way there. So I think this is where it manifests is like getting your hands dirty, but you've actually got to think of it from a strategic perspective externally. What's my best and highest use time that's going to go there? And don't feel that need to just go, oh, let me just, get involved a little bit more. Let me micromanage a little bit more, doing all of that in that job, which takes you away from, I think that's where it comes in because it's easy to do that. It's easy to go, oh, let me just step in and help out. But you got to do the things that are harder and go, well, what should I be focusing on? Let me get somebody else in, to do that. Or how can I make things happen? Yeah, without we getting involved in tools because you can only, fill yourself out so much, right? In doing that task. Whereas in a sales task, you can do things that are worth tens of thousands, $100,000, millions of dollars, right? In a sales capacity, it's worth a lot more than doing that actual task, right? For those few hours or whatever it is that you're getting involved with. So that's the way you got to think about what's the revenue generating task, what's the thing that's worth the most amount of money for me to focus on, and resist the urge to go back to what is easy.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get stuck in the detail and stuff, and it's not actually doing anything for you, where someone else could be doing that, and you could be focusing on the right thing, right? Yeah. Could you share a success story of a client who overcame significant mindset challenge, and what steps did they take, or what did you help them take?
Yeah, definitely. One big client of mine. So this guy, this is the power of podcast, right? That we're speaking about now. He saw some videos of me online, right, doing my podcast, and he found me on LinkedIn, and he reached out and said, "Hey, I need some help. We need to have a chat." And he had a plumbing and electrical business, and he had a seven-figure business, but he went from 15 people down to 5 people, right? Business was like going downhill relatively fast,
Mm,
and I went on that initial call and I could just see his mindset, right? It was a big issue. And I was like, let's work together for 12 months as I do with my clients one-on-one. And, we'll make this happen. And the first thing I'm going to do with you is a mindset session, right? And he's like, okay, cool. I can tell that's the issue. And I went really deep with him in this hour, right? And just finding everything that was there and, got him a massive breakthrough moment in there, right? I've got it on record as well. And he said to me, that was worth the coaching for the year, right? Like that session. So my first session was a mindset session. His next month in his business, he had his biggest month ever in his business that month
wow.
after. No strategies, no tactics, right? So this shows you
That's the mindset.
power of your mindset, right? Either to help you or to hinder you, right? Depending on where your mindset's at that time. So then we added the strategies and the tactics and the other things like that as well to help make sure the business kept growing over course. So that's a big story, and this is why sometimes it's just one shift or a few shifts in your mindset could change everything. Because if I teach you the strategies and tactics, but you're your mindset is telling you to go the opposite way, do the opposite thing, then it doesn't matter what I teach you. It's not going to help, right? Or if you're in a downward spiral, we've got to shift you back in that
Mm,
upward spiral, and then we can create success from there.
absolutely. Wow. Cool. Awesome. That's an amazing story, like one session and he just completely clicked. Yeah. So how important is it for business owners to align their personal identity with their business goals? And what strategies do you recommend to achieve that alignment?
Yeah, identity is everything.
Mm,
When you start, if I use what I was saying before around the technician and the business owner, right? So normally you go in, most people have a skill that they've learned, and then they start a business. So you've got to go away from I am this job, right, as an identity, or I am this thing, and you've got to go into a business owner identity. So I am a CEO, I'm a business owner, right? Like that's a type of identity that you need to shift. And then what are the beliefs that support that identity as well in that area there, right? So that's the way you've got to think first. So that's really important, in whatever that is, right? You could, that's it from a business sense. This could be from a life sense as well, right? That you want to do, and what's that next level of identity that maybe you're someone that plays sport, maybe you want to call yourself an athlete now, right? As that next level of identity. So whatever it is, it's the same thing. But if I do it from a business perspective, that's the first level, right? Let's switch to a business owner. So now you're thinking from the higher level, okay, who do I get in to do what part for me, right? Like we've been discussing. Then the next level of identity is then an investor identity. So that investor identity is going, well, I want to build businesses that are creating wealth, right, over time. So I want to not be involved that much into the business. I want to get other people build this amazing machine, amazing, great thing for these investors, right? So, and then you can start looking at multiple businesses, other ways of, making money there, and other ways of helping people, partnering, all these other things that an investor would do. Now, there's a lot of beliefs that you need to support that, without, going to too much. It takes a while, right, to do this identity shift, but you can do it in a session or over a training. But that would be the biggest thing that I would say. There's always another level of shift of identity. So, think about, let's just say if you're speaking on a stage for the first time, right? Whether it's in front of people or virtually, or even in a podcast interview, right? For the first time, you need to believe that you're already a master at this in terms of your identity before it's happened, so that, well, what are the beliefs that support that? And then when you go in with that confidence, very different, right? Like the second time I ever spoke, the first time was in front of 300 people for 5 minutes when I had a job, right? Talking about a social club. The second time was in front of 2,500 people in Los Angeles, right? Speaking, right? And no training, no nothing, right? Went into this thing, but I had to create identity that I was, an international speaker, and all these beliefs, and I went up there and I crushed it, right? Whereas other people who were in a similar boat for me, were not that good on stage, right? In terms of what they did. So whatever you're doing there, create that identity that supports you, and then that will allow you to step into that and then be able to create it from there.
Awesome. That does, and I totally agree with you, because it's all about really stepping into that version of you that you want to become, right? And as I say, what you focus on is what you become. So the more you shift into that identity, you shift yourself into I am this, then using those I am words, and then or affirmations, and then allows you to step in and be confident in that. And yeah, I've been doing the same thing I've been doing Toastmasters, and I ended up winning the table topics for the year. So that was, I just shifted into that mindset and just identity and went for it. So I have a question around the alignment. How can, if a business owner aligns to their new identity, how can that affect the culture and performance of a team in the business?
Yeah, definitely. It all comes down from, top to bottom, so to speak, right, in a business. So once you have this particular identity, and then you have this vision, let's call it, for the business, right? You have a particular purpose and mission and values and all of that come part of that, and you're living it as well, right? Like you're demonstrating those things day to day. That's massive, right? It's like kids. They don't do what you say, they do what you do, right? And then same in a business. So, when you have this identity going, hey, now I know exactly what we're doing. I'm the CEO. I'm doing this. This is our direction. Everyone's like, cool, I'm going to follow Athin. I'm going to follow Anthony, right, on this path. And let's go together. Values could come from the owner. Could ideally, if you got a new team, you could actually create values from a team exercise as well. And then from that, it's like, let's demonstrate these values, right? And when you do that, like everyone's going to be like, wow, this is amazing. We're all working towards something together here, and people will do more for that area there. And then, using things like social praise for motivation. There's a lot of, studies around that helps people to get motivated. Don't need to be motivated by money, right? A lot of the time. So, all of these things, when you've got this right direction, everyone knows where you're going, and everyone sees that you're part of this cog, then it's massive, right? Of what difference that can make in a business.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because yeah, it rubs off on people, and people see change, and then they just get excited about it, and they also start to do the same thing. I want to talk a little bit about self-belief. Like, let's and the role of self-belief in business success. How can the lack of it hold entrepreneurs back from reaching their full potential?
Yeah, definitely. Self-belief is everything, right? Um, you know, when you're working with people, when you're doing your own thing, it can get lonely as an entrepreneur. A lot of people, we're different, right? As an entrepreneur, most people out there have a job, right? In terms of the statistics, most people want the comfortable wage they get every month, and do all of that. As an entrepreneur, it's not like that, especially when you start. And even over time, there's a lot of things that can change in a business. So you need to be okay with that, be okay with being uncomfortable, being okay with taking risk. And there's going to be things that are going to test that many, many times. And business, it's like a mountain. It doesn't just go straight up, right? And this journey goes up and then down a bit again, then up and then down and up and down. It's this roller coaster type of ride that you're doing there. And overall, it's trending upwards, ideally, right? As you're growing yourself. But there's going to be so many dips in that journey. And, most people quit too early. Most people don't commit enough to do the end thing. So when it gets a little bit hard, they're like, maybe this wasn't meant for me. I might just go back to doing a job and then living in regret or things like that, right? About really pursuing what they wanted to do. But if you never stop, you'll always succeed, right? You never fail in that way if you just keep moving forward. And that's the way you've got to think. I think that's one thing that I've had in my persistence, right? In my businesses, is I've just kept going. There's so many things that have gone wrong. I've planned really well and done all this, and then it's not gone very well. I'm like, crap, okay, I've spent a lot of time and money into this. Okay, all good. How can I do it differently? I could let it affect me, or I could just go, let me learn from it. What do I need to do? Something different here? Do I need to upgrade my mindset? Do I need to learn something from business coaches and mentors, learn some new skills, some trainings? What do I need to do to adjust things? Can I model things in other places and keep moving forward? So I think that self-belief that I will make this happen, right? Like, oh, doesn't matter what's happening in the short term. I have a belief that what I'm doing here is right. And sometimes you have to pivot as well in a business. Like, you try something for a while, and if it's not working, you have to, like, don't fall in love with your idea or your business, so to speak, right? It's like, I think a lot of people are like that. So after a while, once you've tested enough, it's like, okay, maybe I need to try something else. Maybe I need to test a different angle here if you've done it properly for a little while, because a lot of in business, in marketing and all these things is a lot of testing generally in business. So, when you have that belief going, I'll make it work. And if I need to pivot, if I need to adjust, I will do that and get the right people around me. You're always going to succeed. And however quick it happens, we don't know. Everyone's a little bit different, right? But, sometimes one deal, one opportunity can change everything, for you. So it just depends on when that will happen.
Absolutely. Are you able to provide any practical exercises or tips or mindset techniques to help build self belief?
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about affirmations, right? So I am statements are really great. So, I am powerful. I am a master of business. I like saying I am a master of something. I think is a really great one that I would say. So just saying you're a master at whatever you want. It could be like business, it could be like sales, it could be whatever, right? So that's one thing. Before, obviously, the other beliefs that I talked about around, if you've got, let's say, certain limiting things that are coming up in your mind, you flip them and you say them right out loud, and you write them down, and you keep doing that, and you keep adding to that over time so that you build them up. So we've talked about those couple already. the other side of things, I guess, around self-belief is that it's not always how can I do this? I think in the school system, we've been taught how. How do I do this? A better question to ask yourself is who? Who can help me with this?
Mm,
Right? Because so like it's sometimes if you're like, I know I need to do this. This is what I need to learn. This is what's holding me back, and that can impact your belief about delivering, what you're wanting to in this world. But instead of going, I got to learn this thing, it's going to take me months, whatever, like that to do it. It's like, who can help me with this now? Right.
mm,
Because if you can find that person, partner with them, whatever it is like that, learn from them very quickly, whether it's just a friend, a coach, mentor, whatever, right, in that area there, then that will then help your self belief, right, in that area and going, wow, I can make this happen really quickly, right? I don't have to go through that because time, in quantum physics is only relative, right? It's not
mm,
linear there. You can compress time in terms of what you're doing. There's infinite moments of what's happening right now in terms of what the outcome is. So you just need to find, what that is. And a lot of the time, it's about a who. It's that other person that can get you there quicker. So that's what I would say. Because when you get that, your self belief will skyrocket because you're like, I got this person in my corner. I don't have to have 100% of this whole thing. I can have a smaller percentage of this thing. A smaller percentage of a massive thing is much better than 100% of a very small thing, right? In that area there. So that's the way I like to think. So find the people around you that give you confidence that you've got, the skills that you need or whatever that is, the connections, the relationships, and then that can be the thing that just skyrockets you very quickly, to that next level.
absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, Ethan. Okay, the next one I've got a question, and this is something that I struggled from for a very long time, for most of my life, right? And it wasn't as a business owner, but as a human being, as a person. How do you guide business owners in shifting their mindset from a scarcity mentality to an abundance mindset for the long-term growth and success?
Yeah, it's a great question, this one, because I think we all are naturally built to have a scarcity thing into us growing up. Like there's only finite resources. And this is the difference between someone being competitive and someone being collaborative. So we're always taught in these business courses these things. Oh, you got competitors out there. You got to do competitor analysis and like, oh, I need to like fight for this business. I need to get it off of them. That is more of a scarcity mentality, right? So just to be aware of that. Yes, you do want to look at your competitors, see what they're doing and not doing, and that, but it's not about to compete against them. It's just so that you can create something that's very unique, right? That's more of a tool to do that. So
Mm,
the better mentality is to think about that there is an abundance of opportunities, there's an abundance of clients, an abundance of money, whatever, wealth in your area of what you're offering in your products and services out there, which there is, right? In your local area, in your country, and around the world, whatever it is that you're offering, there is an abundance. That's the way you've got to think. And even even people in my industry, I meet other business coaches and we look at doing work together, right? Some people out there will be like, what are you, crazy? That's like, you guys are competing against each other. Well, if you look at it that way, we are, but actually, maybe there's some ways that we can work together here, right? And do things that we can impact more people and help more people in that way because everyone's unique. And that's the way you've got to think about that so that you go away from that scarcity mentality that's only finite and go that there's an abundance, there's much more than enough for everybody in the world. And when you believe that, everything starts to change from there. So that's
mm,
that's the way that I would think about it from a mindset perspective. And then, like I mentioned before, from maybe there's some partners out there that you can find that can help you as well to get that. Because one partnership that has a similar market to you but doesn't compete, let's just say a simple partnership, that could be worth $1 million a year to you if you get the right partner that can do that. So believe that there's plenty of opportunity out there, and then you can create it.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ethan, for sharing that. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are struggling to redefine their identity in the midst of challenges? And how can this transformation lead to greater success?
Yeah, so if you're struggling, I would say is work with someone that's going to help you to dig deep and rescript it, right? So this is the power of coaching and mentoring. We can try and do it ourselves, but a lot of the time you can't go deep enough until someone else guides you to that way, right? It's challenging there. So I would just say is find someone who you resonate with, whether they're from a business coaching that has a mindset side like me, or whether just like specific, like a mindset coach mentor. Maybe there's other types of modalities or tools that people use, right? You've got to use your intuition, your instincts, your gut feeling, whatever you want to call it, to find that person that can help you go down that edge. There's so many different types of sessions that I've done with people, right, over the years, where they do such a variety of things. And then I'm like, I might just meet them. I might be introduced to them. I might interview them on my podcast. I might be on their podcast, all these different ways. And I'm like, hey, like, when we're talking about what you do, I'm like, hey, I'll book a session with you. It's interesting. I've never done something like that, before, like your angle. I'm like, and I'm like, if you're open to that, like, yeah, let's do it, and I'll pay for the service and I'll do that. Right. So, you never know, people come into your life for a reason. So one little edge could be a lot of things. So that's what I would just say is get external people that they can help you to shift that identity overall and find out what those deeper things are that's holding you back. And then that once you remove those and remove that resistance, then you will be able to fully step into it and take yourself to that next level. And then it's just multiple levels. It just keeps leveling up from there.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. All right. I've got a question around NLP or neuro-linguistic programming. How do you incorporate an NLP in helping business owners shift their mindset and achieve their business growth?
Yeah, NLP is a great one.
Maybe
NLP
you
is
can
like
explain a little bit about what NLP is as well.
Yeah. So neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. So basically, it initially teaches you like how we work as humans, right? And then it gives you a lot of tools. So think of yourself like a tool belt, right? You've got all these 10 different tools or whatever it is like that. It gives you a lot of tools to help reframe mindsets. So when you understand how the human brain works, how humans work, it gives you that framework, that map, right, of how things work. So I think everybody should do NLP, not just to become an NLP coach to help others to do it. I think the awareness piece is great. So, NLP practitioner training as a minimum, can obviously make some suggestions to people, after the fact. But I think when you get that understanding, and what I like about it is you get a lot of breakthroughs through the training. Some simple examples are just how to question, right, for coaching. So, because in the end, even if you don't want to be a coach, as a business owner, you still need to coach your employees a lot of the time, right? Because they can come up with issues and you've got to go, okay, what's the issue here? How do I shift their mindset to be able to go down that level? So at some level, you're going to be coaching, whether or not you're doing it as a business or not. So, when you're, I'll give you something practical here, right? When you're asking questions and you're wanting to dig something deeper, the questions you ask are what questions and how questions. Do not ask the why question. If you ask a child, if they knock over a glass and it breaks on the ground, why did you do that? They'll be like, I don't know why I did it. But if you say, how did you do it? Well, I had this toy in my hand and I swung it and then it hit there. Or like, what happened before that? You know what I mean? So the how and the what questions are the ones that dig deeper. So why is it, you only use that not in necessarily a coaching sense, there's some other types of questioning. But so that would be my big tip, right? When you're wanting to get to something deeper, keep asking those deeper questions. And then from there, there's a lot of other tools. There's things like, if you want to go to the real deep end, you've got things like timeline therapy, as it's called, or matrix therapies, where, you go to take someone back to a timeline where something might have happened when they were 3 years old, or, it could even be genetic lines, past lives, these things, right? And understanding what was that first time that this thing happened, and we can change that, and then that will then affect us today, right? So that's the real deep side of things that NLP gives you tools. Or it could be something that's more simple, like a like to dislike. I think this is a really good one where let's just say you're eating too much chocolate, like eating a block of chocolate every night, and you're like, you should be stop eating it, but then you can't stop eating it. You don't know why, right? So you can do a tool that does a like to dislike. I did this with my mother-in-law. So she was eating 2 pieces of bread with like butter. I'm not just talking a little bit of butter. I'm talking like caking butter, right? And twice a day, right? Like twice a day she was having these. And I'm like, and we stay with her here and there, or she stays with us. And I was really, I'm like, how much are you eating of this, right? Okay, this is a lot of bread. This is a lot of butter, especially. I'm like, my wife was like, this is not very healthy for you. And I said, do you really want to get rid of this? Because I can put you through a tool called the like to dislike that will get rid of this. But you have to really be sure that you don't want to do it. Yep, I'm sure. I took her through a like to dislike. It only took 10 minutes right through this process. She has never had it again after that. She couldn't believe it. She called me like 3 months later. She goes, "I've never eaten it. What did you do?" I said, "I did. I just did the process." And it's so simple that it's just the script, right? That you follow. Anyone can do it, right? You don't have to necessarily remember it all. The coaching questions is something you can do it intuitively, but there's all these tools. So I think it's really powerful. I think everybody should learn it. You can do it for your other people, but at the same time, as I said earlier, is that you can't go as deep on yourself, right? You need other people to guide you. So this is where you can get someone that's been trained in NLP to really, take it to the next level.
So if someone would like to do NLP after listening to your message here, where could they go? What are some good places to do NLP, online or in person?
Yeah, I think you can do both. Like it depends where you are in the world, of course, with these trainers, because they can do it locally. Like I'm in Australia here, in Sydney. So there's a really great NLP coach, Sonia Furlong. She's from the Center of Life Therapies. She's one of only 5 NLP coaches in the country that can train other NLP trainers. She trains other NLP trainers,
Wow.
right? So there's only 5 in the country. She spent like a whole month in the US to be able to get this, right? So these are the very high level. Now, you can be trained to be a trainer and be earlier on. Everyone's on their own different journey. If you're more of a global thing, then there's things like the Tad James Company, which are global, that could do some things all over the world as well. But I think Sonia's really awesome. I've been in her trainings and like there. And in the end, is find a person who you resonate with, right? So look online. If you want to do it in person, find who's in your local area. Chat to them. Look at everything there. Otherwise, I've been in sessions where it's been like a hybrid, right? Where there's been people in the room and there's people virtually, dialing in from overseas as well in there. So just see what the offers are, and I just think get someone that's competent, that knows what they're doing, that can take you through the journey, and I'm sure you get results.
Awesome. Thank you, Athin. So I'm going to ask you 5 quick fire questions. You can choose to answer it in a word or you can choose to answer it in a sentence. Your pick. First question is, how do you define success, and has that definition changed for you over time?
It's definitely changed over time. My new definition, short and sweet, is health, wealth, and freedom, right? That's my definition of success. I used to think of it like money, right? Like, oh, if I made 100 grand or I made $1 million or things like that. But that's an external thing, right? Because there's always going to be another number when you put a number onto something like success, right? So to keep it more broad, if I'm feeling healthy in terms of myself, right? I'm feeling wealthy, like I have money that's growing, my businesses are growing, my wealth is growing, and I have freedom to do what I want to do, right? In that area there, in whatever freedom looks like for you, that to me is success in that way. And you can just keep building that up over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Who's been your greatest inspiration and why?
My greatest inspiration, Cristiano Ronaldo, I would say, the soccer player or football player, wherever you are in the world. I'm a Manchester United fan, and I saw him from being young to, us building him into the best player in the world, and his determination and everything. So that's what I take into, right? Is like, it doesn't matter what other people say. I'm going in extremely confident, gonna, put in the work. I'm going to keep learning and just become the best that I can be.
Awesome. Thank you. What is something that you believe that other people may disagree with?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I would say that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So understanding that, we're here in this world, that, there's the reincarnation, right? We're here to learn lessons. And that's why we're put into this body. That's why we're meeting certain people. That's why we're marrying certain people. That's why we're having certain types of kids, if that's what you do, to teach us lessons to be able to grow in this lifetime. And then, you'll learn more lessons in a lifetime, and that there are different soul ages that happen over time. So this is getting a little bit deeper, right? When I get into a lot of these other things that, people are part of, but I think it's important to understand this, that we're here to learn lessons. So it's like leaning in to the discomfort, leaning in to the journey, or what triggers you or whatever like that, because that's where the growth is and that's where the fulfillment is.
We'll be getting you back to talk about that in a future episode.
Awesome, mate. I love it.
Because I totally agree with you. I don't
Yeah.
disagree. I agree with you. Okay, if you could go back to your younger self and give one piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, I would just say is, if I get the idea, like if you get the idea, just do it. Like take action right now as soon as possible. Don't wait around for like the perfect time or anything like that, because you'll be there a lot quicker. Trust your instincts and you'll make it happen a lot quicker so that you don't have regrets or waiting. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. All right. Last question. What message would you like to share with the world?
I'll share that you can do anything that you want to do in this world. So when people tell you that you can't do it, it's actually a reflection of themselves. It's actually that they can't do it. So shut out the noise. Don't care what other people say. Be really true about what you want to do, or just moving forward in a particular direction. Whether you tell people, whether you don't tell people, it doesn't matter, right? There's going to be a lot of doubters. There's going to be a lot of haters. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to support you, hopefully, along the journey that will grow over time. Just keep moving forward and keep learning, keep growing, keep upgrading your mindset, keep learning the skills, keep networking with the right people, connecting with the right people, and eventually you will get there. So as long as you do that, then you're going to have an amazing life and, be able to create something that, most people, when they want to do things, they want to do the easy things, right? So when you're doing stuff, most people want to just do things that are easy, and that's why they don't get what most people won't, right? So you do the hard things that most people won't want to do to be able to create the life that most people won't.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard Rob Dial say something. Do you want to do the easy stuff now and the hard stuff later? Or would you prefer to do the hard stuff now and have an easy life later? And that's, that's a really good way of putting it, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, awesome. So, Athin, how can people get in touch with you? And have you got any programs or anything that you're running at the moment that they can get involved in?
Yeah, definitely. So I've got my website, which is just athincassiotis.com, ATHINCASSIOTIS.com. It's got everything on there about what I do. I've got my free ebook that I won an award for over 400 people called The 9 Keys to Business Growth Mastery. So you can get that on there and even model the ebook as well as like get the great content. And you can find me on all the social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere else, TikTok, wherever you are, as Athin Cassiotis. There's only one of me, luckily enough, easy to find me online there. And I also have a Business Growth Summit virtual event. So I'm doing that in November, and I've got an in-person event coming up then as well. But yeah, if you just go in on my website or connect with me on socials, you'll be able to find all links to that as well. A lot of resources, and just love to help and help other people there, for free wherever I can, add a lot of value. And I just want to say thanks, Anthony, for having me on here, mate. I had you on my podcast just recently as well, and it's been a pleasure interviewing you, mate. And it's been a pleasure. Yeah, you're a great host, and being on your show as well.
Thank you. I had a great time being on your podcast, and look forward to the episode coming out. And you're welcome, and you're welcome back anytime. Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Much appreciated.
Yeah. All right. And we'll put the links to those to the website and so on into the podcast description so that people can click on it and get to them. If you've been listening to this podcast episode and you've got some insights, or something's touched you, and you want to get in touch with Athin, please do so. Or if you want to talk to me, please do so. Comment on the on this podcast episode. Share it on your social media, and whether it's Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or TikTok, and tag us in so that we can read the comments as well. And make sure you share this episode with your friends, your family, and your workmates. And if you haven't already done so, please follow the podcast so they don't miss any future podcasts, and we can get this out to the wider world. Thank you. Have an amazing day. And remember to champion your life and champion your greatness. You are worthy, you are amazing, and you can achieve anything. And I mean anything that you put your mind to, because nothing is impossible. When you take the word impossible and you break it up, it says, I'm possible. Have an amazing day, everyone.